All right. Hello everybody. I am Tony Lures. I'm going to be teaching your Math50B class this semester, Calc 2, Integral Calculus. I'm gonna walk through a little like introductory video. What are the things I would normally kind of say to you guys on day one of a class? I'm just trying to knock this out today rather than kind of using up one of our sort of actual lecture slots tomorrow or Tuesday with this video. Just kind of just my, as you can see with the topics above me right there, are personal introduction, course introduction, and what tasks should you be knocking out right now to kind of get into the flow of what's going to happen in this course here. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself first, my personal introduction, and then I'll talk about what are the things that we're going to do in this course, which you can see. Oh, I got to flip my camera still. Man, I got to horizontal flip myself over there. You can see our list of chapter topics here. I just kind of want to talk through what's going to happen in each of those chapters, and then what are the things you should be doing this week. A little bit about me first. So this is my fourth year at College of the Redwoods. Last year was my third year. This is the start of my fourth year. This is my fourth year in California. I did originally move to California to take this job. Previous to California, I'm originally from St. Louis. I did 2.5 years of college in St. Louis at St. Louis University. After which I transferred to Western State Colorado University in Gunnison, Colorado. I finished my undergrad there and went to Bozeman, Montana for grad school for 3 years. I got my first full-time teaching job back at the same undergrad in Colorado that I had finished my undergrad at. So I was a full-time temp professor there for 3 years. And that's when I got my job here at College of the Redwoods. This will be my seventh year now of full-time teaching. And that's which I don't know if it feels like it's been half that or twice that many, but yeah, so 7 years, holy cow. Um, let's see here. So one of the exciting things for me, well, let me back up for a second. A lot of you that originally registered for this class might notice that you originally registered for this class with the instructor of Mike Haley. One of the transitions, as I hope all of you expect, most schools in the world are undergoing some transitions right now. Colleges in particular, more were, the optional version of school, college, and going online with the pandemic is making a lot of changes. One of the changes that ended up happening at College of the Redwoods was a little bit of a restructuring which programs belong to which divisions. And so while this probably doesn't directly typically impact you on like a day-to-day thing, one of the impacts of this was that there is a new division at College of the Redwoods that is going to contain things like the police academy, the nursing program, and some other career tech programs. And since that is a new division, it needed a new dean. The CR administration decided to appoint the person who had been my dean, the person who had been the dean of the math and science division, is now the dean of the new division for that's been created. What ended up happening is that Mike Haley then got the promotion from faculty to administrator there. So Mike Haley was going to be doing this course this fall, but about a month ago, that restructuring ended up putting him in an administrative role, which is why now you guys, Mike is awesome, but congratulations, I am now your calculus professor. Lucky you. I was very excited when I saw the roster as well. It does look like I think there's going to be about 45 total students in my two calculus classes this semester, but it looks like I think at least 10 of you have had in either Calc 1 or College Algebra or Trig or something like that. And I'm always encouraged by seeing that. Sounds like some of you guys took my classes and decided to stick with it. So that's good. I look forward to kind of seeing some of you guys again in there for sure. Um, so, so the other interesting thing is that one of the reasons I'm so excited to teach this class is because this is actually the first time that I'll teach Calc 2. I've taught Calc 1 5 or 6 times. I've taught Calc 3, I think 3 times. I've taught differential equations 3 times. I've hit all the other calculus courses many times each, at least 3 times each, but I've actually managed to somehow never get to teach Calc 2. It just turns out that in the semesters I requested, it's just never there's always somebody else that's either has seniority in some way or it makes sense for scheduling for somebody else to teach it. So I've been waiting for this one for years. So on the one hand, I guess I've never taught this before, but I am completely unconcerned by that. I think that what you guys should be aware of is that I teach enough Calc 1, Calc 3, and differential equations that I know exactly what you're all supposed to know right now, and I know exactly what you're gonna need to know in your upcoming calculus classes. And so yeah, I'm not concerned at all about this being my first time teaching this class because I think I have a really good sense of perspective as to what role does this class play in the calculus sequence. And honestly, it's more fun to teach things. I feel like for the first time for me, it's a little bit more exciting and new. And there's always so many topics where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Awesome, I get to teach that. So I always look forward to doing classes for the first time. So that's it's an exciting one for me. This is sort of rounding out my my sort of curriculum vitae here. I've taught almost every math class that's offered at CR except for this one, so I'm excited to knock this one out. Some other things I'm looking at my list of things I wanted to mention here. Some other things. Last semester was hard for me. Holy cow! Last semester the transition online was just I don't know how to say it. It was difficult for me. I had a variety of personal things that made my semester more difficult than an average semester last year. And then adding on top of that, obviously, pandemic forcing us all online. Last semester, I was also teaching 4 different courses. And that just made for a very undesirable amount of work for me to have to do to wrap up last semester. So I feel like I ended last semester not exactly in high spirits with the pandemic situation, with online teaching, stuff like that. But this semester, a lot of those things aren't the case. I've had the summer to both prepare myself actually and prepare myself more just like mentally, preparing myself to understand my new work from home role, stuff like that. Um, this semester, I'm teaching 2 sections of statistics and 2 sections of calculus 2, so I only have 2 classes that I need to focus on content creation for rather than 4 as I did last spring. And obviously, I've known that we're going to be online. It's not like I got the 1 week of preparation like everybody got to make the transition last spring. So I do think it's at least just worth saying here. I was a little salty at the end of last spring, but I feel pretty good about what I think we're going to all be able to do this semester. I think that I know what I'm doing a little bit better. I definitely learned a lot about what to do and to what not do at the end of last semester. I think that all of you at least registered for this class. I'm assuming knowing that it's going to be online. A lot of people last spring ended up being in an online class when they never really maybe wanted to be, and that's really tough to hold people to firm expectations when they never signed up for an online class in the first place. This semester, we all knew that this was going to be online, so I think that I get to have slightly higher expectations of all of you because you all knew that you're registering here for an online class. But I think that this is going to be pretty manageable. At the beginning of the summer, I was a little more nervous, but I think that I have surrounded myself with the right ideas and the right technology. I hope to pull this off in a pretty satisfying way. So I feel a lot better about the state of academic affairs now than I did 3 months ago, locally and globally. And finally, I should say, this is sort of my segue from personal topics to professional topics, is so I have a 10-month-old son, and having a new, very small child that sleeps a lot means that I have a lot of responsibilities, but I am also not necessarily doing something all the time because he sleeps a lot. Also, combine that with the global pandemic, and it turns out that I actually do spend quite a bit of my first personal time, my free time, on Twitch, watching. For those of you that don't know Twitch at all, Twitch is mostly used for people to live stream video games, although people do things other than video games on Twitch. I do watch a lot of Twitch in my personal time. It never occurred to me that I could actually use Twitch as a medium for my class until really just like a month ago when I was complaining to my brother about some issues I'd been having with Zoom and the recordings that Zoom makes. And he, as a slightly more tech savvy person than I, said, well, why don't you just stream it on Twitch? I think you'll get better video recording. And it turned out he was right. And so it is true that I do actually spend a lot of time on Twitch. It definitely didn't occur to me until somebody else suggested it to me that I should actually use this for my classes. So what I did end up finding is that Zoom recordings capture a much lower video quality, and it got to the point where, it didn't get to the point, but the very first video I attempted to make, I couldn't even read my own handwriting when I received the recording of it later, and so that's not helpful to me. I want to be able to do by hand work on the screen here, and for you guys to be able to see it either live or on video later. So it matters that we get this higher quality video recording, and it turns out that Twitch records higher quality video than Zoom does. So while we will use Zoom for things like office hours for having live interactions, anytime that I'm creating video content that I want to be saved for later, the intention is for that to be fed through Zoom because of its higher video quality options. So I think that's all I've got here on my list of personal introduction items. Um, Yeah, if you have any other questions about me, certainly welcome to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to roll on into course introduction items here. This is going to actually basically be the Word document that you see sitting to my side right here. And basically all I want to do is just walk through what are the chapters of the textbook that we're covering this semester. In other classes, I usually do this because in lots of classes, like for example, the stats class I'm teaching this semester, the chapter titles are, man, they're almost just terrible in my opinion because they're in lots of textbooks, lots of chapter titles are words or phrases that don't even make any sense to you until the chapter's over, and I don't like that. So I always like to talk about like what are you going to see in each chapter. I laughed because I typed this out for my stats class this morning, and it made sense that I did it. And then I came to do the same thing for the calc classes, and like the chapter titles are exactly very good descriptors of what's going to be in there, with the exception of one or two. So I do want to still talk through this, but I don't think it'll take me as much time as it normally does for some other classes here. So the other reason why I think this is valuable, though, is that a lot of you guys are using the same Stewart calculus textbook for your calculus sequence. And so I don't know, you are maybe more familiar with this book, and it matters more that you understand what way the chapters are broken up for Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3. So here we go. So let's kind of talk through this guy right here. And what I kind of want to point out is that chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8 all kind of do this introductory job for us. In chapter 5, we get our basics of integration. In chapter 6, we get our basic integration applications. In chapter 7, we get some more advanced techniques for integration. And in chapter 8, we use those more advanced techniques of integration for more advanced applications. So chapters 5, 6, 7, 8 just say, here's some tools, here's how you use them. Here's some more tools, here's how you use those more tools. And that's going to be basically like the first half of this class. Chapter 10 is basically our little like kind of intermediary chapter. In chapter 10, we're going to talk about some of the problems that we ran up against in chapters 5, 6, 7, and 8. There's going to be a handful of things that we're going to want to do that are going to pan out to just be a little bit computationally more difficult than they should be, or impossible. And the reason is because we're going to have been viewing those issues from the wrong perspective. I'll say the wrong perspective there. What I really mean is, if we're talking about things that are shaped like circles and spheres, then maybe it makes more sense to us to think in terms of polar coordinates. If we're thinking about curves as being trajectories, then maybe it's better for us to think about them as parametric equations that change over time rather than y values changing based on x values. So in chapter 10, we're really going to just say, let's keep on looking at the same concepts we looked at 5 through 8, but let's identify that some of them are easier in parametric form or polar form, and some of them just straight up weren't possible before, but now will become possible in parametric and polar form. So chapter 10 is just saying you should be aware that x, y, and z are not the only variables worth doing math in. Sometimes when we change our perspective, think in different coordinate systems, it helps make things a lot simpler to describe. And so chapter 10 will sort of fill in some of the blanks for us there about how do we pop out of Cartesian coordinates. My biggest problem, I already know in chapter 10, is going to be holding back. Most of Calculus 3, Math50C, is all about, not all about, I shouldn't say most. A huge topic in Calc 3 is going to be about polar and cylindrical coordinates and some more parametric stuff. And so this is something that gets expanded on over a few more chapters in Calc 3. It's some of my favorite topics in there. So as I said, my hardest part of chapter 10 is going to be just keeping my narrow focus on just what we're looking at here and not going off on some Calc 3 topics because there's some really cool stuff there. Chapter 11. Okay, now chapter 11. I'm assuming you've read to the bottom of what I'm looking at right now and can just see the sentence that says, okay, now for the fun stuff. Hopefully, you've all taken enough math classes in your life that when a math professor says, okay, now for the fun stuff, that you should be reading that as now for the hard stuff. And I guess I should say, I mean, I don't know. This whole class is hard. I don't want that to be uh, anything that anybody's confused about out there. I definitely think that this is probably the hardest of the four calculus courses. And I'm not saying that to be discouraging or scary. I'm saying that because that's what most students end up thinking, and that's what most professors end up believing. And so just kind of be aware of that right now. Chapter 11, I remember this being sort of the first time in my life where I was ever like, oh my gosh, oof. And you will all get the same impression from that. But chapter 11 is some of the most interesting stuff. A lot of the sort of personal math that I do. I do learn math that is focused on helping make me a better educator, but I also like to consider myself a mathematician, even if this wasn't my job. I still do sort of some leisure math on the side, and a lot of the stuff that I ended up working on this summer actually deals with a lot of topics that are very closely related to the stuff that we'll discuss in chapter 11, which is infinite sequences and series. So here's my little, this one actually requires some description here. And here's the way I like to think about describing this chapter. Sometimes, I'm starting right here, sometimes we add up an infinite number of things. And when we add up that infinite number of things, we result in a sum that is infinite. In this very basic example, I say, if you add up all of the integers, all of the positive integers, there are an infinite number of positive integers. And when you add up that infinite number of objects, we know that we end up with an infinitely large sum. On the other hand, what we learned at the very end of chapter 4 and at the very beginning of chapter 5 is that there are times when we add up an infinite number of objects, such as when we perform Riemann sums and we have our infinite number of Riemann sticks being added up to form a solid shape. In that case, we're adding up an infinite number of objects, but what we're finding is that we end up with finite sums. In this case right here, I say, add up the infinite number of Riemann sticks underneath the curve y equals x squared between x equals 0 and x equals 2. What we'll end up finding is that that sum, that amount of area right there is 8/3. It's a finite value. And so one of our major goals for chapter 11 is to say, if I give you an infinite sum, a sum of an infinite number of objects, how can you tell for sure if that sum is going to diverge to infinity or converge to a known specific value? And how do you know? And are there cases in which you can't tell? These are some weird questions. And what you should realize is that this is going to help us get at the heart of what calculus is really talking about, is trying to help us understand what does infinity really mean. And that's just a really, really hard question to answer. There is no one simple, one sentence answer for that. But what we do want to end up kind of delving a little bit deeper into in chapter 11 is different concepts of infinity. In differential calculus, in Calc 1, we talk about infinity in the context of what does it mean for two objects to get infinitely close together. That's our derivative right there. We computed a slope between 2 points, but then we moved those 2 points to be infinitely close together, and we computed the slope at a point. And that kind of makes a bunch of sense, and it kind of makes no sense, because how can you have a rate of change if there was no change, right? It was an infinitely small change. So in one sense, Calc 1 is a lot about exploring the concept of infinity when we explore what happens when things get infinitely close together. In integration, we explore the concept of what happens when we add up an infinite number of an infinitely small object. And then we're going to see that sometimes we add up infinite number of objects that aren't infinitely small, and we still get finite, or a variety of situations going to arise here. And again, our job is going to be a bit of classification here in chapter 11. And finally, my last sentence that I wrote for this is essentially what this chapter is saying is, an integral is really just a sum, right? This is what we all learned in section 5.1 with our Riemann sums. The integral symbol is literally made to look like an S for summation. It's supposed to be an S, and that S stands for sum. An integral is really a summation. So if we think we're really going to understand integrals and integration, which is why this class is titled Integral Calculus, then what should hopefully be somewhat obvious to you is you are going to actually really need to understand sums and summations well if you're really going to understand kind of the inner workings of integral calculus here. And so playing around with sums is a really interesting thing. Like I said, my own little bit of personal math research work this summer was in the area of me evaluating a lot of sums that I didn't think I was ever going to be able to evaluate in my life, because there's lots of fancy techniques for evaluating sums, just like there's fancy techniques for differentiation and integration. And so we'll look at some of those things and how they relate to the concept of integration out here in chapter 11. But I do want to say, and again, not to like be scary or anything, but chapter 11, it's not wildly different from the topics we talk about in this course, but the skills that are associated with sort of being good at chapter 11 are different. And there are some students that find this to be their favorite chapter of the course, and there's some that find this to be the least favorite chapter of the course. Either way, it's a big chunk of content, and it's very interesting ideas. And so this, I might say that this is maybe the unit that I'm the most looking forward to in this course on my end of things. It opens up the biggest world of possibilities, I think. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I think the only other thing I want to say before I get away with this right here is that you should see that between chapter 8 and chapter 10 is a missing chapter 9. Chapter 9 in our calculus textbook is the chapter on differential equations. Differential equations is taught as an entire standalone course. Differential equations is not a chapter of stuff. Differential equations is not one undergrad course of stuff. Differential equations is a whole world of topics out there that in the long term, I mean, if you stuck it out for long enough, you could be taking multiple semesters of graduate level differential equations and still only see a tenth of the stuff that's out there. That's a pretty broad topic. So that is the one skip chapter right here, and that's associated with Math55 differential equations, which all of you will have qualified to take. The prerequisite for that class is 50B, and I am teaching Math 55 next semester. It is the best of all 4 calculus classes, I think, and so I'm going to highly encourage all of you guys to take DiffyQ with me next semester. It's so cool, and this semester is going to be also, but DiffyQ, very, very, very good stuff in there. So kind of keep that on your radar right there. Be thinking about your calc sequence. I know that some of you guys are required to do 50C next, calc 3. Some of you are not. I know that some of you are required to do 55 next, differential equations, and some of you are not. That might be something that you maybe benefit from looking into sort of now to see what your spring semester might end up looking like out there. And man, calculus only gets awesomer from here. So if you enjoy the things that happen this semester, that should be a very strong indicator to you that you should be taking as much math and calculus as possible. Calc 3 and DiffyQ are probably my 2 favorite college classes that I ever teach, and I highly expect that this one, Calc 2, is going to be very, very high on the list as well as soon as we get through this semester here. So if you guys have any questions about the content, you're certainly welcome to hit me up with that. But this is just basically my description saying we're basically doing chapters 5 through 11. We're skipping chapter 9 because that's actually its own whole class. We will be going essentially in the order that the book is going in right here. And chapter 11 is its own kind of special animal out there. The rest of this stuff kind of goes as one kind of large concept here. Chapter 11, a bit of a difference right there. So that's what I got for you guys as far as the course content goes. The only other thing I really wanted to do in this video here is go ahead and look at our task to get started. I'm going to just kind of walk through some of the stuff on our course Canvas page, and you guys can go through that stuff at your own pace right there. And I just want to kind of point out what are the tasks that you're expected to be looking into here in the first couple days of this class. So I'm going to switch my screen over to this one here. I think I've still got audio, so we should be good. Over here now, we can go ahead and see my browser over here. So very, very first things, most basic things. I do know, by the way, I want to point out real quick, a lot of the students that are taking this class are taking this as maybe like their 3rd or 4th semester of CR classes, stuff like that. Maybe you've been here for like your whole math sequence. It's also the case that I know that we have some students in here this semester that are not previously CR students, that are maybe some Humboldt State students taking a semester here instead of a semester there since we're online. We do have a good chunk of Arcata High School students in this class, stuff like that as well. So every once in a while, I get into this rhythm of just assuming that everybody knows the CR drill, but I need to constantly remind myself that's not the case this semester. If you ever see me assuming that you know something that you don't, especially stuff that's like just CR information, definitely always just ask me. I'm not trying to be rude. I just got to kind of remember that I have a slightly different population of students this semester. So to that end, here's the CR. Oh my gosh, I got to flip my video here. Here's our CR main webpage right here, redwoods.edu. In general, some of the most important stuff that you're going to need to find is up top here. That being said, as with all good things, as soon as anybody figures out a system, it changes. I do know that they're planning on like modifying the look of this homepage here in the relatively near future. But at least for the moment that I'm making this video, WebAdvisor, Canvas, and your email are probably the three most important links you need on this whole page, and they are right here. WebAdvisor for all your formal stuff. That's where you register. It's where you get your grades. Canvas is where all class content is held. Obviously, your student email link right there. And you should please use student email or your Canvas page to message me in the semester. Our email stuff does just weird filtering things where some people's like Gmails get filtered out and some don't. And so don't put yourself at risk there. I don't have access over my email filtering settings for that kind of stuff. So it's good for you to use your more standardized school email here to help guarantee that your message gets through here. So I'm interested in going to Canvas. This is where all of our course stuff is going to be located this semester. So when I go to Canvas here, it's already got me logged in right here. I guess I could just log out real quick. When you go to Canvas, you should just be able to log in here. I believe that everybody should have been given information if this is your first time using Canvas, first time at CR, whatever. I do believe you should have been given your login information. This is really important. If you don't have your login information, this is certainly your number one task that you should be doing. Honestly, I don't know how you would even know about me making this video or be watching it actually if you don't have this. So maybe this sign-in is a prerequisite for this video. But in any event, get into Canvas here. You should be able to see the classes that you're registered for should populate here. This semester, I'm teaching 2 sections of statistics, 2 sections of Calculus 2, and then this is a faculty Canvas page. This keeps a bunch of like faculty help stuff. This is more like a class for me than a class for you, so you guys wouldn't see that right there. But you should all have access to this Calculus 2 page right here. When you go to the page, it should be the case that the first thing that pops up is what I have set to be our front page, our home page here, which is the sort of welcome page, the page that says read this first. And so I'm just going to walk through a bunch of the stuff that's on here. Basically, I'm going to tell you should read some things, you can skip other things for now, et cetera, et cetera. And highlight some light changes that have been made here. So again, Canvas is going to hold all of our information for the semester. This is like, if there's one website you need to be able to access, it's this one for the semester. This right now is set to be our homepage, and I'm going to leave it that way for a while because it has like all of our introductory information right here. But I also want to say to you, most of the semester, it's going to be most helpful for you to view our course through the modules view right here. When you go through modules over here, it's going to take you to a modularized view of our class. I'm going to have one module that's going to be all of our course information, and you can see that all the subsequent modules are just containing like a week's worth of content, right? So right now, the week 1 module is open and published because week 1 technically started yesterday, right? We're in week 1 right now. On each of the days, I have listed what is the Monday of that week. I don't know. I am in a sense trying to think of my academic weeks as a Sunday through a Saturday this semester. So it is my intention that on Sunday mornings is when a new week's worth of stuff will get populated on here. I can imagine that I'm going to screw that up a few times this semester, and that's going to be okay. But in any event, like this should be our like week by week guide right here. So all this course information is always going to stay here in this one module. So if ever you're like, oh shoot, I need to go look up office hours all semester long, you can go to course information, go find the office hours page, boom, there's your information, your links, stuff like that should be sitting right there. But again, for right now, I want to go back to our view of the the welcome page here, which should be your like home page. On the right, you should have a selection in your student view to select the home page, and that'll take you here. So what's in here? First things first, I always feel obligated to make my syllabus the first thing that I ever have posted in any of this kind of stuff here. Um, that being said, I always feel like reading a syllabus is like the worst part of my semester. Every semester as a student, it's always the hardest thing to read, where none of the information I ever seem to read is relevant to me in the moment. It's always meaningful later. I don't want to just pretend like this is meaningless right here. Like if any of you guys are transfer students going anywhere else, like if you're trying to get a transcript evaluated, other schools might need to see our syllabus to verify that like this class qualifies for counting as credit. So like this is an important document for formalities, but probably like I don't know. I try and make it so that all the information that you need during a semester is like here and easier to access places. So maybe download that, keep a hard copy offline of that for yourself for our own formal purposes here. But it's my hope that you never need to like go reference the syllabus for information, that you can get it more easily elsewhere here. Textbook information, all this stuff in highlighted in yellow, really important right here. You guys should all work to get the textbook as soon as you could possibly get your hands on the textbook here. This is just one of the long list of things that is easier for us to all work out when we're in person, and we're just not. It is really good, convenient that the textbooks are all freely available at the CR library, so you should really take advantage of that. This is a textbook that I sort of feel like anybody who's competent enough to take Calc 2, Calc 3 differential equations should own the textbook that they take for that class. It's great reference material, but also just for convenience. I mean, it's really nice that you can just rent this book for free for the whole semester, basically just by making a phone call and going to CR to pick it up. So do that. Again, the guy at the front desk of the library, he knows, man, he seems to know every faculty, all the books that they're using. You can give him surprisingly little information and he's still going to get you what you need. His name's Greg. He's super useful, and you can just be like, I'm taking calculus. I need the book. And he is on top of it. So that should be easy. You just got to make your phone call. You just can't show up right there. You just got to let them know that you're coming so that they can plan a pickup drop-off thing for you there. Semester schedule. This was also something that I just added this morning. I honestly just forgot to throw it in there. This will just link you to a PDF. This is essentially just going to say, what are we doing in each week of the class? It's just viewable as a PDF right here. I'm not going to open it for viewing this second, but you can check that out. It's just going to say this, what sections am I planning on covering during what weeks? Where am I ballparking that we're going to have tests, stuff like that, what weeks and stuff. So this is just a week by week breakdown of the semester, just listing what are the sections being covered in a given week. The most important word, I think, in that little blurb right there is the word hope. I have to guess that we're probably going to fall off of this semester at some point along the way, but my hopes and dreams are for us to stick to this schedule as closely as possible here. It would be super cool if we stuck to that schedule, but it's a hope. Lectures, I intend to do 2 lectures a week on Mondays and Tuesdays. I intend for the lectures to be done live via Twitch, again, for the improved video and audio recording at the end. You are never going to be required to live attend any of the lectures. You can always watch them at your convenience. Basically, the drill is going to be that I'm going to do the lectures at, oh, by the way, let me just go peep at my schedule real quick here. I have determined that I'm going to do our calculus videos from 12:30 to 1:30 on Mondays and Tuesdays. So pretty much what I anticipate happening is 12:30 to 1:30, I'm going to do the video. I'm realistically probably going to run a little bit long in a lot of them, so maybe hopefully done by 2 at the latest for each of them. After I'm done making the video, I am going to go to Twitch. I'm going to download the video, which takes a little bit of time. I'm going to upload the video to YouTube, which takes a little bit of time. Then I'm going to link it to Canvas. So if you're looking for these videos in Canvas, it's always going to be like, it's not going to be instantaneous that this is just up in Canvas right away after. But if we're doing 12:30 to 1:30 for these, and maybe I drag it out a couple days and then make it till 2, I'm kind of hoping that by 3, but really by like 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm hoping for the videos of that day to then be posted. So you can again watch them that evening. I'm trying not to, I have been advised against, and I'm trying to follow this advice to not put too stringent of like hard deadlines on my classes. Since this class is online, We want to make sure that accessibility is maximized here so that you guys have the most number of options as to how to access the course content. So even if you can't watch these live, I try to make sure that all the deadlines for this class are not, I don't want the couple hours, even if it's only a 5 or 6 hour delay between watching this live and getting the video. It needs to matter that there is no difference, at least for your deadlines, if you watch it later or you watch it live. So there's never going to be any like a live video on Tuesday and a homework assignment due about it on Wednesday or anything like that. There will always be sufficient time for everybody to have had access to the video and stuff like that. So, and maybe the last thing I'll say about the lectures and the videos here is that when I make the videos on Twitch, Twitch will keep my videos for 2 weeks, at which point it will remove them so that I don't just have like an infinite amount of video that they have to store. So these videos are viewable on Twitch for only 2 weeks. I also have a YouTube page where once I upload the Twitch videos to YouTube, they'll be there permanently. So you could also just kind of follow me on YouTube and see them there. I will also, most importantly, always link all of them to Canvas. So it's definitely the case that if you only want to go through Canvas, you could get to everything, all the video stuff, just with Canvas this semester. Your My Open Math is still a separate website, but at least for all the video content this semester, if it's easiest for you to just do it all through Canvas, then that's 100% a completely reasonable option for you to choose there. And again, accessibility matters. I'm just trying to make sure that there are as many ways possible for people to do this, since different things are convenient for different people. Weekly guides, because of the fact that we don't meet in person, because of the fact that I don't spend 5 minutes of every single class period kind of talking about, what's going on and where we're at in the semester, my lecture videos are going to try to keep pretty much just about content and not like with about surrounding things out there. So the weekly guides purpose is to kind of help give you guys a little bit more detailed instructions about my expectations of you for the week. The weekly guide, you're going to go and you're going to read your little blurb about the weekly guide stuff right here. And when you read that, you're going to see that I'm going to try and provide for you like the same categories of information every week to say, step 1, do the reading, take these notes, make sure you do these examples. Step 2, take your comprehension quiz in Canvas. Step 3, watch the lecture. Step 4, do the homework. But I'm going to give you like little helpers along the way. Like the worst thing I could do is give you all those like 5-word sentence instructions. That's not super helpful. I'm not going to do things like just say, read section 5.1. Like that's a really lame instruction, right? So the point is that I'm going to try and give you more help. The point is there's going to be some examples in the textbook that are way more important than others. Some that I think are dumb and things that we're not going to talk about. There's going to be some really good example problems in the textbook. There's going to be so many things that I want to like point out little small stuff to you. There's going to be times where I'm going to create my own content that's not in the textbook. That's when I'm going to give it to you. It's going to be in the weekly guide. Here's a PDF that you also need to read that I created. Stuff like that. So the weekly guide is supposed to be your instruction guide for the week, plus extra help. It's going to say, and your homework, most of the problems should be pretty easy, but you should recognize that 17 is not one of the things that you've seen yet. Make sure you watch the video for 17. All those little helper things like that, all those things are going to be in the weekly guide. So this is sort of your like, I kind of consider the weekly guide to be sort of like my conversation to you rather than a task list. It's more of a longer form verbalized specific instruction set for your week. So read about the weekly guide. One of sort of my challenges for the semester, I think, is going to be to try to provide the weekly guide to you guys in like the exact same format every week. I think that rhythm is going to be a lot more important part of taking online classes than taking in-person classes, where I think when we take classes in person, you can kind of passively receive a lot of course information without having to try to do anything. If you just barely even show up to class, you're going to accidentally hear pretty much all the information that you need. That's just not how online stuff works, right? You have to I think that I would have been a poor candidate for fully online education. I think I did a really good job of passively just showing up to stuff and it working out for me when I was an undergrad. I don't think that works out as great right now. So this weekly guide is supposed to help you be sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing and making sure that you're not wasting your time doing things that don't need to be done. So the weekly guide is supposed to be nothing but a help, and it's supposed to provide us more consistency and rhythm so that you can say, I know Tony's going to expect that I do this week. Let me go get the specific instructions for that one thing at the guide. Like, I want you to know that it's there beforehand so that you know what you're going to look for. Canvas quizzes. It's my intention that we're going to be taking some Canvas quizzes this semester. Some of our topics are going to lend themselves really well to that, and some will not. I don't expect that we're going to be doing like highly consistent Canvas quizzes, but you should definitely expect for there to be a handful of like graded in Canvas items this semester. And at the very least, there's going to be the one that you're going to do right now. You can see actually on my screen right now, you can see all three of your to-do items to kind of get into this course right here. The first one is your introductory quiz. This quiz has no math content in it. This quiz is really just me asking three sort of like get to know you questions. This is really just like give me three quick paragraph blurbs. I'm not expecting this. This should not take you any serious amount of time. You shouldn't have to like think really long and hard about what you're writing right here. This is really just like tell me about yourself. Like I just want to know what's going on with you this semester, this pandemic. Everybody's situation right now in life I think is a little weird. Tell me about that stuff. Like that's all that is. It's in here. So this is one of your tasks for right now for our sort of like getting into the class is go take this introduction quiz. This link right here will take you directly to an in Canvas quiz, and it's just three short response questions about you personally. My Open Math online homework. This semester, we're going to do a bunch of our homework. I'm going to say most because most technically just means more than 50%. Um, and I think that'll be true. So more than 50% of your homework will be through My Open Math this semester. Some assignments and all of our tests will be handwritten and submitted digitally. For all the information that you need about setting up My Open Math, you can follow this link right here. This will take you to the page that I've made that's going to give you your setup information. At My Open Math, you will need to create an account, and then there's a code in there that will allow you to register for our course within My Open Math. That will give you access to all the assignments that I create. That'll save all your grades in there, all that stuff that I can download and export, bring into Canvas later. So just like with the Canvas quizzes, there is sort of a practice introductory assignment sitting over at My Open Math for you. The math in it should be trivially easy. This intro assignment should take you essentially no time. This is more of just a verifier that like you managed to get in. Like you create an account, you register for the class, you can click on the buttons, you can add 2 and 3 and get 5 and submit that as your answer. This should very much be a pretty trivial assignment right there. It's more of just like I need to know that we're all accessing My Open Math. So go knock out this guy here. You can get registered at the link, and then you can go to the website, do the assignment called Intro to Mom right there. And yeah, this will be my acronym. If you ever see capital MOM, that's My Open Math, our online homework site. So while we are going to do some online homework, you should be expecting that by now you are in an advanced enough math class that just computing numbers is pretty lame. And even just computing numbers, I mean, if you haven't figured out that you can go look up half of this stuff by now, then you're crazy. So it is the case that I want to see by hand work from you, and kind of a lot this semester. Like we're going to do problems that even if you know what you're doing are going to take you 30 minutes of writing out work to arrive at an answer. Obviously, I care so much about your work and your process in that case more than I care about the answer you arrive at the end. So it really is the case that I'm going to be expecting some submission and some by hand work from you this semester digitally as a PDF. Some things that you also might expect, just real quick before I kind of go into the details of this, is that sometimes what I'll do is maybe it'll just be something like in My Open Math, you'll get like 20 homework problems in My Open Math, and maybe what I'll say is pick the two problems that you thought were the most interesting out of numbers 16 through 20 and write them out long form for me and submit them as your by hand work for the week or something like that. So it might not even be extra work. Maybe it's just like show your work extra good on these two problems right here and then also submit that because I want to be able to give, that again, if you're in Calc 2, then you know that like you're in it. Like we're taking real math class now. Like there's more than just you doing 3 algebra moves to solve problems. Like there's a lot more process here. It matters that we're getting a lot more feedback from me. And so I will quite often require some by hand work. But also, I very much learned last semester that if I have people submit to me a dozen pages every week, then there's no chance that I'll grade all that, right? So like, these typically won't be super duper long. Honestly, just because I couldn't even grade it all, but there should be more than 0 feedback about by hand work. So that's kind of my motivation for that right there. And tests, just like I am only interested in seeing all of your work for a test. And a test, it's only about proving what you know, not getting answers. It's about solutions. And so Tests will be all by hand work. So you're going to follow this page to get your info about this stuff right here. Basically, the bottom line is I know that probably none of us have a scanner, but I know that probably all of us have a smartphone or access to one. And so what you're going to do is you're going to play around with some smartphone apps. You're going to find an app that works for you to take pictures of your work that will create multi-page PDFs. Any of you that try and submit 8 pages of work to me as 8 PDFs are going to be sorely disappointed when I don't grade your work, so don't do that. Um, this honestly might be the biggest sort of like annoying intro task here to get started. For some of you, this is going to be a piece of cake. Like when I did this, it was no problem. I downloaded Adobe Scan. It did exactly what I wanted on the first try, and it was no problem. I've had other people telling me that they can't find an app that does the thing, and they download stuff, and I can't find the files, and this might be a little bit more of a tech troubleshooting one right here. I would love to do my best to help you with this one if you get stuck on this one. But as with the previous 2 tasks, there is an assignment that's essentially just a sample task. That's really just like a do this so that I know that we're all good to go for the technology needs for the semester right here. So where you see sample PDF right here in blue, this is not a link to a PDF. This is an assignment, and the assignment's title is sample PDF, because in this assignment, you are going to create a PDF document just with a couple specific things written on the page. Again, just so that I know that you're creating these and then I can read them when you get them. I did actually at the last minute change it so that you do have some slightly non-trivial math to do on this right here. But I have full confidence that you're going to be able to at least go look it up in the textbook that you already have if you need a little bit of help with the math there. So in any event, this assignment right there is one of your to-do tasks. I have also linked that to-do task out in our more general thing. So you can see that same link is sitting right there. So these are your 3 tasks to do to like kind of be prepared for the course. We're going to take some online or some quizzes in Canvas. There's your sample Canvas quiz. We're going to do a bunch of homework in MyOpenMath. There's your MyOpenMath like sample assignment. We're going to submit some by hand work as PDFs. There's your sample assignment for submitting a little bit of by hand work as a PDF right there. So those are your 3 sort of, before we get into true class content, tasks to do that are all affiliated with our, like, we all need to be able to use technology this semester. Last 2 things here down at the bottom here. One is your weekly writing. You'll read a little bit more about your weekly writing when you read about your weekly guide stuff that's up here. But the basics of this is just to say, I want to know like what you do. I mean, hopefully you guys all figured out last semester that math is no longer about like computing a number by now. There's so much more process and interpretation that needs to be done. And this is all getting to the point where it's hard enough that you can't just read 2 sentences in a textbook and be good to go. And so what this weekly writing about is saying, this class is hard and you should have something to say to me about this class being hard every week. Every week, it should be the case that you needed to ask one of your friends for homework help. It should be the case that you maybe needed to come to my office hours to ask me for homework help. It should be the case that you maybe can't figure out how to make some graph, but you found some awesome resource online. Oh, heck yeah, Chris. Oh, yeah, I'm going to read a chat message here in 1 second right there. I'm going to stick this out. But Chris, talking about making a Discord, super good idea. Or it should just be the case that you just got really stuck. Like maybe you just banged your head against a wall for 5 hours trying to figure something out and figured it out. That's what I want to hear about. The weekly writing, I am hoping, is not any burden for you. I am hoping that you don't have to really do any additional tasks to have something to write about for the weekly writing. This class is probably going to be hard enough that you should easily have a paragraph to tell me about what was something that you struggled with and then overcame during that week, and how did you do it. This should really be a lot of a narrative. I want this to be a story. I want this to be, oh man, I was really stuck. I couldn't figure out just the last problem on the homework. I called my buddy Mike about it, and he was also stuck. We got together, we talked about it. We eventually figured out that it was because we were both trying to use the wrong formula. We thought we should have been using the one formula because of this, but it turned out we should have been using the other formula because of that. We understand now that we should search for those properties of the function before we get started so that we don't do that. There, you've just described like you're learning, one of the like key learning experiences you had for the week. So the weekly writing, again, I really don't expect this to be like an annoyance or a burden for you, but you should have something to say. Unless you're a genius and this class is crazy easy for you, which It just won't be. So, again, like the weekly writing is saying, give me some narrative. Tell me a story about how this class went for you this week. I intend to, I expect you to start to try and write a little bit professionally, but I'm not going to like beat you over the head with the grammar stick or anything like that. So this should just be like dialogue, right? What I want to know is that you did more than just compute 20 numbers this week, because that's not what college is. It's just computing some values. So this is saying to me, I didn't just do, I engaged with the course material. And this is a bit of my personal experience with the engaging with the course material there. So I think I'm going to see some cool stuff in the weekly writing. What I'm seeing over here in the chat, Chris is saying, I just created a Discord for the students in the Calc 2 courses to discuss and work through challenging concepts together. Here's the link. So there we go. So I didn't even have to do it. I was actually thinking I should make a Discord page and I hadn't yet. So it looks like there is a Discord page that's been created. It's got a join link. I'm going to make sure that that join link for the Discord is in there as well. If I'm saying Discord 7 times here and you don't know what that is, sorry about that again. Discord is basically a messaging service. In a sense, it's just an instant messenger, but Discord has grown a lot over the last years to where you can be sharing files with each other. You can actually do Zoom conferencing with it as well. Like if you guys wanted to work online together on your homework, you guys could all set up your cameras and do your own Discord things. One of the small things I don't like about Zoom, and by the way, it's my very last topic down here is my office hours, is that I want you guys to be able to be on Zoom without me. Like my least favorite part about Zoom is that I'm required to be there. You guys should be able to just hang out and do your homework together, and that shouldn't be an issue. And Discord, I think, is a better way to do that. It's an easier way for things to be facilitated, more like a one-on-one or small group, rather than it being like an entire class invite, an entire class, like I don't know, or me like guiding something versus you guys just doing stuff on your own. So I do think Discord is a really good thing right there. And man, work together, like go be on Discord. This is a hard class. And this class will be so much easier and so much more fun and satisfying if you do this with other people. If you're in Calc 2, then I think that you enjoy hard challenges. I think that you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't get satisfaction from figuring out difficult ideas. But I think that if you're in Calc 2, you've also probably been in a situation in your life where you were faced with such a difficult idea you couldn't figure it out and it probably made you mad. You need to make sure that you're striking a balance this semester. You should appreciate the challenge of this class, but you won't enjoy it if you beat your head against the wall all the time being stuck. Don't do that. Get help. And if you don't want to directly get the help from me, then you should just pop on over to the Discord, or, like I'm saying, in general, interact with other students. That is what makes learning stuff great. I can tell you there's a 0% chance that I would have a master's if I didn't do almost every single homework assignment in grad school with multiple other classmates. It's the way that I got through it. It's why grad school was the most fun thing I've ever done, even though it was like 15-hour schoolwork days all the time. It was the best because I was always doing it with somebody else. And it's harder in a pandemic, but it being harder means don't just lay down and say, well, it's too bad it's hard. It being harder means I guess I just need to go out of my way a little bit more to get that socialization engagement that used to happen naturally. It doesn't happen naturally now. You got to kind of reach out for it a little bit more. So, man, work together. And again, if you just work together on your homework every week, that can just be what you tell me about in your weekly writing. Now you're like done with your weekly writing for the whole semester if every week you work on homework with other people like that. So you're easily knocking out a couple things right there. So be together this semester. It's gonna benefit everybody. Last topic down here, office hours. Because office hours are much more about you and I having more of like an equal interaction, as opposed to obviously in this video lecture format, you guys can totally hit me up in chat, and I'm always gonna have hopefully my eye on chat right there. But obviously it's one-sided. Like I've got the video, I've got the mic, and you guys can only type in chat. So it's certainly more like a 90-10 split for our interaction versus Zoom office hours, which is equal 50-50 split. We both get cameras, we both get mics, we can both share our screens. You can literally just show me your by hand work live and we can work it out together. I can do problems with you. I have a digital tablet right here. So I bought myself a nice like digital tablet that I can do all my handwritten stuff on here. So Zoom office hours are a bit more equitable interaction with me. And you can get all your information here about our office hours. Let me just kind of tell you the short version of some of the things here. A couple important things about this. Office hours are via Zoom, and that is because Zoom does a lot better at the one-on-one interactions here. Zoom does worse about recording video and audio, which is why our lectures are not by Zoom. I plan for our office hours. You can see these 3 different times and days. I'm just going to highlight the links right here. These are the same ones as you see in the bullet list up above. The only small difference that you should be aware of is that these 2 office hours that are both 1 hour long on Wednesday and Friday, those are both specific to just calculus students. So those are only available for the students that are registered in my Calc 2 classes. You can see that they both have a password, and the password is Calc 2. Our Friday afternoon office hours from 1 to 3, that's an open office hour for any of my students. So it might be the case that there's some stats people in there. So just so that you're aware, like on Friday afternoon, you might pop in and I might still need 10 or 15 minutes to do some stuff with some stats people. So you might just hang out or leave and come back or something. Notice this one has a different password. It's just math because it's for all my students right there. So I sort of have a couple office hours per week that are just for our calculus people, and then one that's in general for any of my students, any stuff like that. This is our, do I have to attend? No. All office hours are always optional, but they can satisfy your weekly writing requirement, and they're the most direct way to talk to me. So like this is, if you need help, like I can always email, I can always do Canvas messages, I can do my open math messages, we can chat in Twitch chat, you can go to Discord and get help from other people, but this is the most like direct and organic interaction that you can get with me here. So this is always a good option right here. And finally, I'm smiling as hard as I can smile without my earbuds falling out right now. And that's what I'm going to keep on doing, is smiling vaguely sarcastically at everybody right now. I would strongly like to invite you to please read the remainder of the what should I do before attending office hours section before coming. I laugh because I sort of put this in here for different reasons for my different classes. When I put this in here for like some of my lower level classes for my algebra, my statistics and stuff, students in those classes haven't necessarily taken as many technical classes. And when I say technical, I guess I just mean like STEM, like math and science classes. And what I tend to notice is that students in those classes just don't seem to have as much experience with like asking technical questions. And what ends up happening is that students don't try to improve their question asking. And what I really think is, think about how 2020 is different than 1980. Like, what is different about education now than the way that it used to be? And what's different now is that you can just look up any answer to any question now. And so getting answers to questions just isn't as interesting as it used to be, because literally just because Google exists and Wolfram Alpha exists and Desmos exists, if you can't find an answer on one of those 3 things, then I don't even know if that stuff is able to be known, right? So like answers aren't necessarily exciting anymore. What really matters in the future, since any robot can get answers, is that you as a human can ask good questions. Asking good questions matters more to me than being able to answer that question. So what I would encourage all of you to do, and again, I just made a pretty similar video of this for my stats class earlier, but I am talking through this specific page differently. You are in Calculus 2 now. Almost everybody that needs Calc 2 needs it because they're also going to need Calc 3 and or differential equations, and then a bunch of other technical classes after that. I mean, for so many people, this is a prerequisite for a big sequence of technical stuff. You need to learn to ask good questions. You need to learn when should you ask questions. When is it too soon, but when is it too late? You need to know that you are expected to work on stuff on your own before you can't just go running for help the second you get stuck. But also, if you spend 2 hours making no progress, then that was a waste of your time and you should have asked questions sooner. And feeling out that balance is hard. It takes experience. I don't have like a set of guidelines for that. It matters for you to stop and say to yourself, am I at the question asking stage yet? And if so, what is the question? Another thing I think I would encourage you to think to yourself is this, and this is absolutely not a rule, and I don't want to be discouraging about office hours. I want to be encouraging that you ask good and well thought out questions. And a thing that I always like to think for myself when I've always had like anxiety of being like embarrassed to go to an office hour to ask a professor something, because in my mind I'm always like, oh, like I feel like I should know that, so I'm embarrassed that I'm asking. That's not the way that this goes. But the thing I've always done for myself in my head is say to myself, if I were only allowed to just ask one question and then I wasn't allowed to talk anymore, how do I make sure that that one question like is going to get me the answer that I needed? Now, you absolutely can ask me more than one question. You can ask me a million questions this semester, but I think that that exercise is good because it makes you stop and think like, what really are the essential things that I'm asking about? Like, what's really the concept that I'm struggling with here? Half the time I go through this process, I end up answering my own question before I even end up going to the office hours in the first place. So this is just my little blurb here of saying you should be working toward being an excellent question asker. Answering questions is not the cool thing anymore. Asking good questions is the true hallmark of like a real academic. And so I want you to try and think to yourself like, you should ask really good questions when you come to office hours to ask me them. Because again, half the time, just thinking about what's the good question gets me to my answer anyway. So do that for yourself, do that for me, and do that for your future self, and do that for your future professors, because I hope that you guys don't find me intimidating or like a person that you can't ask questions to. But like honestly, like you're probably going to have a professor in the future that is intimidating, that you are nervous to ask questions to, and it might be the case that you're like, okay, I need to think of the one good question. You should be good at asking questions by the time you get to that class. You're in Calc 2, you're in the land of doing technical things and thinking technically and being precise about what you say. And so I think that this is a good time for me to like badger you guys about this and say, I don't know how you've asked questions in the past, but whatever you've been doing, step it up. Ask like super good questions, and I will appreciate it, and you will appreciate it, and you'll feel good about like being able to hone in on the things that you're really understanding and not understanding here. So, but again, I don't want to be discouraging. Always just come to office hours if you need my help. But it's always nice, like as I highlight down here, I despise the I don't get it. That just you should have something better than that in there. So I look forward to that out there. So enough of me yelling about office hours right here. So this is the last of me talking through the things that are on our Canvas page here. I'm gonna wrap this up here. I know I got a little bit long form in my ramblings right there. So the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is just what are our tasks to get started here. You've got your 3 green highlighted to-do items are all on this page. They're all 3 together. You've got a sort of a practice quiz, a practice homework assignment, and a practice PDF submission that are all like sort of like non-content stuff, but stuff just about technology accessibility. So those are the first 3 things that you should be looking into here. Your next things to know are that we've got our, so what do we got here? Yeah, read through all the stuff on the Canvas page. If you haven't looked through it before I did this video right here, go and look through all those things. I did not click on all the information at the pages. You guys still need to go do some setups. So go through all the information that's up on this page right now as well. Complete your 3 introductory to-do tasks. Remember that this page that you're viewing right now is the best place for all of our information in one place about the course in general. But to view specific course content week by week, the modules view is your overall view. So this, over the course of the semester, you're going to want the module view more, but for our week 1 setup, you're probably going to like that homepage better. In the modules is where you actually get our like actual week's course content right there. So once you've done the 3 introductory assignments, then you should come on over to the week 1 module over here and start looking through the week 1 content. I already do have a video posted in here about some of our like refresher, the prerequisite material that you guys should all look through, see where you're at, make sure you're up to speed. And then tomorrow we're going to have our first like video lecture here. So tomorrow at 12:30, I should be doing the first video content for the course of actual stuff. So that will be tomorrow at 12:30 will be our section 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 highlights. So it's really going to be just me tearing through those sections because then those are prerequisite to this course. But I do know that especially with the courses having gone online last semester, there's probably a good chunk of us that need to see that. If you didn't cover any of that, then you do need to do a little bit of reading and do a little bit of covering that on your own. But I do think that most of us got at least the basics of Riemann sums, the basics of integration. So we'll all hit that 5.1, 5.2, 5.3 on Monday's video. On Tuesday, I'll look at doing 5-4 and maybe 5-5 depending on how it goes. This is one of those weeks where just because I'm trying to make some extra videos for the people that might need a little bit more prereq help to kind of get started, it might be the case that already in this week I do a third video. If I ever tack on extra videos in a week, rather than just doing like a 3-hour video one day, I'll probably try and do a third video like same time on Wednesday or something like that instead. But we'll kind of see those as we come up against those here. So in any event, yeah, we'll have our first stuff here, our first video live if you'd like to attend tomorrow at 12:30 for our reviews over 5-1, 5-2, 5-3. Some other, maybe my last statement here will be, you should also see that there is a 5-1, 5-2, 5-3 homework assignment that is also currently open in My Open Math. That is the one homework assignment out of all the true section homework assignments this semester that I am going to say, maybe you should just go to that homework assignment right now and see what problems you can do and can't do. That might be your good way to kind of help you know what are the things that you need out of section 5-1, 5-2, and 5-3 still that you might want to come get from my video. Or I really do think it's going to be the case that I think that maybe as many as half of you are actually all the way good to go on 5-1, 5-2, 5-3 and can maybe just knock out that homework completely right now or with minimal reference from your book if you guys did get that far that semester. I'm suspicious, although I haven't confirmed this, I'm suspicious that those of you that are the Arcata High students actually got a little bit further than the College of the Redwoods or HSU students that took Calc 1. So maybe it's the case that you are good. So I'm going to say, in general, I always encourage you to do the reading, the note taking, and the video watching before going to the My Open Math homework assignments. But for this first homework assignment over 5-1, 5-2, 5-3, since it is technically review prerequisite material, it might actually be best to do that out of order and to just go straight into it, just to give yourself a little bit of a measurement to say, okay, good, I did remember that. Okay, I need to go look up that idea, but I do remember it. Oh, I've never even seen this before. I guess I better go watch the video. Kind of feel out where you're at for each of those tasks right there. So, in a sense, I kind of think there's a lot of stuff, but I also am hoping that I've organized this in a good way. I'm going to get that Discord link posted as well. I'm going to go ahead and download this video, upload it to YouTube, and post the link for it in Canvas so that everybody can see it there as well. And I'm going to be back here on Twitch at 12:30 tomorrow for the first lecture. As always, contact me with any questions. Email or Canvas, I think, are the best two ways. And I think I'll see you guys either at 12:30 for the live video, or I'll see you on the Canvas pages in office hours, all that other good stuff in the email this coming week here. So go ahead and take a look at your 3 to-do tasks and go ahead and look at your week 1 module. And I will be seeing you guys this week. Welcome to the fall semester. I'm pretty excited about Calc 2 this semester. I hope you guys are feeling the same way. I'll see you guys this week.